sad breaking news to bring you that two-time Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found...
Sad breaking news to bring you that two-time Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, were found dead on Wednesday. Hollywood has lost a true legend. Gene Hackman, a powerhouse performer whose presence on screen was nothing short of mesmerizing, has passed away at the age of 95. From the gritty determination of the French Connection to the ruthless charm of Lex Luthor in Superman, his career spanned decades, leaving an unforgettable mark on cinema. Fans knew him as a master of his craft, an actor who could command any scene with just a glance. But as tributes pour in, troubling details about his passing have surfaced, details that raise more questions than answers. Authorities arrived at his Santa Fe home to a scene that was anything but ordinary. His wife, Betsy, and their dog were also found dead under bizarre circumstances, with no immediate signs of forced entry or a clear cause of death. Was this a tragic accident, or is there something more to this story? Tonight, we look back on Hackman's incredible career and the unsettling mystery that now surrounds his final moments. Gene Hackman's journey to Hollywood greatness began far from the glitz and glamour of the silver screen. Born in 1930 in San Bernardino, California, and raised in Illinois, his early life was marked by a restless drive to carve his own path. At just 16, he enlisted in the Marine Corps, an experience that instilled in him the discipline and resilience that would later define his acting career. After his service, he found himself drawn to storytelling, enrolling in the Pasadena Playhouse, where he honed his craft. But success didn't come easy. He struggled for years, taking on small roles, scraping by, and facing constant rejection. Many doubted his potential, dismissing him as too ordinary, too unconventional. But Hackman's determination never wavered. Then came Bonnie and Clyde in 1967, a game-changing moment. Playing Buck Barrow, he captured the perfect balance of charm and volatility, delivering a performance that caught Hollywood's attention. Suddenly, the industry took notice. It was the breakthrough he had been fighting for, and from that moment on, Gene Hackman was a name to be reckoned with. The 1970s cemented his place among Hollywood's elite. In 1971, The French Connection hit theaters, and Hackman's portrayal of Detective Popeye Doyle was electric, gritty, intense, and utterly compelling. It earned him his first Academy Award for Best Actor. He had arrived. But Hackman wasn't one to be typecast. Just a few years later, he stunned audiences again in The Conversation, 1974, a quiet, cerebral thriller directed by Francis Ford Coppola. As a surveillance expert drowning in paranoia, Hackman gave one of the most haunting performances of his career. Then came Superman in 1978, where he completely redefined the comic book villain, bringing a sharp wit and menacing charisma to the role of Lex Luthor. Whether playing a hard-nosed cop, a tortured loner, or a diabolical mastermind, he commanded the screen in a way few actors ever could. The 1980s and 90s were a testament to his versatility. He could shift effortlessly between tough, no-nonsense authority figures and deeply complex, emotionally charged characters. In Hoosiers, 1986, he played a struggling basketball coach trying to redeem himself, turning what could have been a simple sports film into something deeply moving. Then, in Mississippi Burning, 1988, he tackled one of the darkest chapters in American history, delivering a powerhouse performance that shook audiences. As the 90s rolled in, Hackman continued to prove why he was one of the greatest actors of his time. In 1992, Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven showcased him in one of his most chilling roles, the ruthless sheriff Lil Bill Daggett. It was a performance so raw, so layered, that it won him his second Academy Award, this time for Best Supporting Actor. Not long after, he teamed up with Denzel Washington in Crimson Tide, 1995, creating an on-screen rivalry that crackled with tension. Then came Enemy of the State, 1998, where he played a former intelligence operative opposite Will Smith, blending action, suspense, and his signature gravitas. By the early 2000s, Hackman had nothing left to prove. He had given the world decades of unforgettable performances. But even legends know when to step away. In 2001, he delivered a career highlight with the Royal Tenenbaums, playing the eccentric and deeply flawed patriarch of a dysfunctional family, a role that perfectly captured his ability to mix humor and heartache. Then, in 2004, he made his final on-screen appearance in Welcome to Mooseport, a light-hearted comedy that, while not his most critically acclaimed work, was a fitting farewell for an actor who had done it all. And then, he walked away. In a rare move for a Hollywood star, Hackman retired from acting completely. No farewell tour, no slow fade, he simply left. He settled into a quiet life in New Mexico, focusing on writing novels and staying far from the spotlight. While fans hoped for one last return, he never looked back. His legacy was already written, sealed in the films that shaped generations of moviegoers. For decades, Gene Hackman was a force unlike any other, an actor who could disappear into any role and bring an unparalleled authenticity to every performance. He wasn't just a movie star, he was a storyteller, a craftsman, a legend. And even in his absence, his work continues to inspire. But now, with his passing, the world isn't just mourning an icon. We're left with unsettling questions about how his final days unfolded. The details are strange, the circumstances puzzling, and as more information emerges, the mystery only deepens. The news of Gene Hackman's passing initially appeared straightforward. An elderly Hollywood legend who lived a long, fulfilled life had simply passed away. But as details started emerging, the story took a dark and unsettling turn. It wasn't just Gene who had died. His wife, Betsy, and one of their dogs were also found dead inside their Santa Fe home. Suddenly, the narrative shifted from a peaceful passing to something far more mysterious. Speculation ran wild. Was this a tragic accident, a medical emergency, or something more sinister? Authorities arrived at the residence to find an eerie scene, one that left them with more questions than answers. Betsy Hackman was discovered in the bathroom, lying near the counter. A space heater had been knocked over beside her, and prescription pills were scattered across the floor. Had she fallen? Had she reached for something and been hit by the heater? It was unclear. Even more disturbing was that her body showed signs of decomposition, suggesting she had been there for some time before being discovered. Gene was found in a separate room, fully clothed, with his sunglasses lying beside him. There were no visible injuries, no immediate signs of distress, yet something about his positioning made it seem as though he had fallen suddenly. Did he collapse due to a medical emergency? Did he try to reach his wife but never make it in time? And then there was the dog, a German shepherd, found lifeless inside the bathroom closet, while two other dogs roamed the house, seemingly unharmed. What had caused its death? Was it related to whatever took the lives of Gene and Betsy, or had it succumbed to something completely different? Investigators noted another chilling detail: the front door was left ajar. There were no signs of forced entry, no shattered windows, no broken locks. But why was the door open? Had someone entered? Or had someone left? With so many bizarre elements at play, theories began circulating. One of the first possibilities ruled out was carbon monoxide poisoning. Fire department officials conducted extensive tests, but there were no signs of a leak anywhere in the house. If not gas exposure, then what could this have been? For now, there are more questions than answers. But as we wait for the truth to come to light, one thing is certain: Hollywood has lost an icon, and his final days remain shrouded in unsettling mystery. One last performance. One final role that would bring him back to the big screen. But Hackman had already given the world so much, and he was content to let his work speak for itself. In a business that often demands constant reinvention and endless visibility, his complete departure from Hollywood was almost unheard of. That decision, much like his performances, set him apart. Hackman was never interested in fame, he was interested in telling great stories. And now, even in his absence, those stories continue to resonate. His performances remain timeless. His influence? Immeasurable. As the industry mourns his loss, one thing is clear: Gene Hackman was more than just an actor. He was a force of nature, a storyteller who could bring any character to life with effortless authenticity. His legacy is not just in the films he made, but in the actors he inspired and the audiences he captivated. Though his passing is heartbreaking, his work ensures he will never truly be gone. His performances, his dedication, his impact, they will live on, just as powerful as ever. And for that, the world of cinema will forever be grateful. For an actor as celebrated as Gene Hackman, his decision to walk away from Hollywood in 2004 was as surprising as it was definitive. At a time when he was still in high demand, with studios eager to cast him in new projects, he simply stepped away. No farewell tour. No grand announcement. He was done. And unlike so many actors who retire only to return for one last film, Hackman never looked back. But why? For Hackman, acting had never been about fame. It was about the craft, about storytelling. And after decades of intense roles and relentless work, he was ready for something different. He turned his focus to writing, pouring his creative energy into novels instead of scripts. He embraced the quiet life, something few Hollywood legends ever truly achieve. He retreated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, far from the lights and cameras that had followed him for decades. In that vast, open landscape, he found peace. No red carpets. No press junkets. Just a life lived on his own terms. He spent his days writing, cycling, and enjoying the simple pleasures that Hollywood had never afforded him. Despite his reclusive nature, those who knew him said he was still sharp, still engaged with the world, even as he aged. While he battled the natural toll of time, he remained mentally active, still reading, still writing, still thinking deeply about the world. But public appearances? Those became almost non-existent. He was rarely seen, and when he was, it was only in passing, a quick photo snapped by a fan, a brief sighting at a local shop. He had completely removed himself from the industry that had defined his life, a feat that few actors of his caliber ever manage. But for Hackman, there was no nostalgia for the limelight, no need to relive past glory. He had given the world his best performances, and that was enough. In the years leading up to his death, rumors swirled about his health. Some speculated he was frail. Others insisted he was doing well. But the truth was, few really knew. Hackman had built a life where his privacy was respected, a rare accomplishment for someone of his stature. And now, with his passing, his life remains as much a mystery as ever. He was a man who lived on his own terms, disappeared when he chose to, and left behind a legacy that will never fade. Even in death, Gene Hackman remains an enigma, an actor who gave the world everything on screen but kept the rest of himself hidden away. The questions surrounding Gene Hackman's death remain unsettling. Despite the official reports suggesting no foul play, certain details just don't add up. Why were all three victims, Hackman, his wife Betsy, and their dog, found in separate locations within the home? If this was simply a medical emergency or an accident, how did they all end up in different rooms? Then there's the open front door. No signs of forced entry. No indication of a struggle. Yet, the door was left ajar. Was it left open by someone inside in a desperate attempt for help? Or had someone else been there, leaving without a trace? And what about the timeline? Authorities believe the bodies had been there for up to 2 weeks before being discovered. How did no one notice? No family members, no neighbors, no friends checking in? A man of Hackman's stature, even in retirement, would still have people reaching out. So why did it take so long for someone to realize something was wrong? The toxicology reports may hold the answers. Were there medications involved? Did Betsy suffer from a health issue that led to her collapse? Was Gene's death triggered by shock, stress, or something more sinister? Until those reports are released, speculation will continue. But despite the tragedy surrounding his final moments, Gene Hackman's legacy cannot be overshadowed. He was one of the most gifted actors of all time, a performer who brought raw intensity and depth to every role he played. From the relentless determination of Popeye Doyle in The French Connection to the quiet menace of Sheriff Little Bill in Unforgiven, Hackman gave us some of the most unforgettable performances in cinema history. And of course, Who could forget his portrayal of Lex Luthor in Superman? A character that could have easily been over the top, yet in Hackman's hands, became both charming and dangerous. His range was unmatched. He could be a hero, a villain, a man struggling with inner demons, or an everyday figure trying to make sense of the world around him. Whatever the role, he made it his own. Even after stepping away from Hollywood, his impact never faded. His films continue to inspire new generations of actors, filmmakers, and movie lovers. And while his final chapter is filled with mystery, his life's work is crystal clear. So, as we say goodbye to one of the greats, let's not focus solely on how he left us, but on everything he gave us. Watch The French Connection again. Revisit the conversation. Experience Unforgiven with fresh eyes. His performances live on. And through them, so does he. Rest in peace, Gene Hackman. You are truly one of a kind.